Ladies, I'm really excited to introduce you to Bex Galligan, who's joining us as our very first official guest on the Startup Podcast, originally the Single Women's Empowerment Club, but welcome to the Startup Podcast. Bex is the Career Confident coach. She helps women build rock solid confidence so they can have a limitless career, which I actually think is an amazing mission in life in general. So Bex provides women a place to share, which I've been part of, so I want to say thank you to Bex for that. But they're able to share their career secrets, they're able to take back control and, get rid of those external factors that are dictating their level of confidence and success. So Bex, I'm really excited to have you here. A very, very, very warm welcome to the live stream of the Startup Podcast, but also you're very welcome to the podcast in general. How are you doing?
Thanks. Thank you for having me. I can't believe I'm the first guest on the new one. Yeah, very exciting times, and feel honoured to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually delighted you're here, and what a great first guest to have. So for a lot of women who are not going to really know what Career Confidence is, tell us a little bit about what you do and what inspired you to kind of branch out, because you're full-time, right? And you do this on the side?
So I have a full-time job working for the NHS, and then I also do this on the side, and I do this because I can't not do it. So I've tried to not do it and it's not possible, so we're going with it. So I help women find their limitless career through real confidence. And when I break it down, it's because when I think about limitless careers, we go through so much whilst we're at work, and your ambitions change over time. So you might be coming back off maternity leave, and then your ambitions change, or your where you want to get to might change. And then it might be that the kids leave home, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I've got nothing to do, I'm going to go for it. You might become single and be like, do you know what, I'm going to throw everything into work. And what I want to do is provide people with a toolkit to be able to go and get after whatever it is that they want in their dream. And then the confidence bit is then to say, no matter what the circumstances are, you're also equipped within to then go and get after it too. So that's where I'm coming from.
I love it. And I literally think every single person can relate to some area of what you're saying, like maternity, kids leaving the home, becoming single. They're all huge milestones that we all go through. Where do you think the confidence comes into it? How does it all impact confidence in their career in general?
Well, those things that are also changing our level of ambition are also affecting our confidence over time. So most of us will have had something happen to us, which if we don't have the tools to be able to understand how to take that information in, we can make it mean something that it doesn't necessarily mean. So I've been bullied at work, and I lost all sense of self and everything that went with it. And my bounce back was just far better than the setback, is the phrase I always use. So I'm a much better person than I ever was before. So I'm kind of grateful for the experience in a way. But those things really start to damage us as women. And, when women have children, they start to lose a bit of their identity and who am I at work now? And this is about providing something that you can just look within and give yourself some self-assurance. We don't need to go and get it from anyone else. We don't need validation from other people. We now know what we can look inside and go, yeah, I can tell myself I'm good at this and I can go for it. Because if you can't really get to the limitless bit.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And I love that you mentioned bounce back, because I talk about bounce back ability a lot. You mentioned bounce back ability earlier when we were messaging. So just so you know, Bex and I are actually pals. We do message a bit, and we've been working together a little bit as well recently. Tell the listeners what bounce back ability means to you.
Oh, so I mean, the timing could not be more perfect. So last night I had a bit of a meltdown because selling my house, and my house has fallen through and it starts to spiral into something. And we're all going to have things that happen in our lives. Like, just because you work on self-development, it doesn't mean that life is perfect. Like, oh my gosh, yes, I've worked on my confidence. Now nothing's ever going to rock the boat and I'm going to be like on it all day, every day. That's just not what happens in life. What's important though is how we come back from those events. So for me, it used to, something bad happened, it would be like a couple of days or a week of just like moping, and I would just love to sit in this victimhood state. And it was never serving me, because the only person I was screwing over was myself. So when I talk about, exactly, bounce back ability, it's not like, let the things happen as they're meant to happen, but know that you have a choice for what you would like to do next. And that's far more important. How you bounce back is far more important than the setback, because the setbacks you can't always control.
Oh, I totally agree. You can either be the victim or the victor in life.
Yeah.
You have to decide.
Yes.
That came to me when I was at walking earlier. But I think a lot of people live in that victim mode, and like you were saying, like, it could be a couple of days, could be a week. For some people, it's literally their entire lives, or years of their entire life. And it is being able to sort of take charge. And I fully agree. It does not matter how much you work on your personal development, your mindset. Always be positive nonsense, whatever it is. Like, we all have bad days. And when I say always be positive, I'm not into the toxic positivity. I'm like, live in the real vibes, use your real vibes. How do you initiate your bounce back? What are your first few steps to kind of get back on track?
Make sure I felt everything. And like, don't let, so I used to have a habit of the toxic positivity, like, no, it's fine. We can just like bypass the feelings on this. We don't need to feel it. We're all good. And so it's taken me quite a hefty journey to feel stuff, and also like understand what else it brings up, because the thing is never then the thing. Like, it's just the straw that broke the camel's back, because actually there was loads of things that you'd kind of not taken notice of, and then it all comes up at once. So first off is definitely just to give yourself a chance to recognise what is going on.
Yeah.
And then I start to set some gates or like goals to say, how long am I going to let myself feel like this? So last night, for example, I gave myself the whole night. Didn't even try and feel better for whatever I wanted to eat, whatever I wanted to watch. Like, I could just do whatever. But from the minute I woke up this morning, we were done.
Yeah.
So I set a very clear time on like when I was going to be different. And then I had to then choose. So then how is it going to be different? What am I going to do to start my day off differently? So people will have their own things about how they like to start their day to get the most out of them. Mine is taking the dog for a walk, because I spend half an hour being like, oh, good girl, you're so cute. And all these positive words come out of my mouth. And by the time I've finished, I'm like, oh, the world is great again. So they're the kind of things, like, feel the feels, set your cutoff date, and then know what are the things that start to make you feel good, and do them.
Absolutely. And feel all the feelings. Like, so many people are afraid of their anger, or feeling sad, or feeling resentment. I'm like, dive into it, feel it, uncover it, dance it out of your system, do what you need to do. But it's so important, because otherwise it's like that. It's like another straw is going to come along and break your back, and it's going to even amplify, isn't it? So important.
It sits like here, and I think we all, women, we always have so many other things to think about that we're constantly layering, and you always have to kind of create some. I mean, I love a good cry, because I do think it creates some room to then, all of a sudden I'm back to like a half cup, rather than it was filling up, and now I've just kind of released something. And people get those releases in a different way. Like, you're into your fitness, it's probably like a really good gym session that can get rid of that.
Totally. I'm into rage dancing as well. So, like, you know, for anyone who doesn't know what rage dancing is, it's like, if something's upsetting me or making me annoyed, like, I had an incident not that long ago with people being very toxic in one of my, anyways, I'm not going to explain where it was, but I literally came home, put on some Tool, some Slipknot, and just was like, I'm going to release this from my energy, and just danced around the kitchen, punching the air, shaking it out. By the end of it, you're just like, this is ridiculous. I must look ridiculous. This is, and then you're laughing at the fun of it, and all that anger is gone. And now when you have like an objective view of what's happening, you're not so caught up in the drama of it, which I think is a nice way to be.
Yeah.
But you have
to get that out to see the clarity. You can't try and see clarity whilst you're in the thick of it. And it's like understanding what some of the things are that can push you through that quickly. So it might be like watching a sad film or listening to some sad music just helps like quicken the process of getting it out. Like, you know, you're on the edge of something. Yeah. Like, put a bit of Adele and then you're like, okay, now.
Just dive in. Just like take that one step off the cliff and see how you get on emotionally, not actual cliffs.
Yeah, exactly. Not actual cliffs. So yeah, it's definitely important.
Yeah. So what kind of work do you do with women and their careers?
So I'm all about, I'm not about writing your CV for you or helping you get a good job application. I'm more about understanding your purpose, like what do you aspire in your goals? And most people haven't really worked out what they would want from their career. So they're moving then effectively from job to job. When you're moving from job to job, you don't really know what's important to you. When you think about a career, and I get people to start to understand, like, what does life look like in 5 years' time? Because they're the things that dictate what you need from your career. It might be, it dictates the salary because you live in a house with loads of bedrooms and a beautiful car out front, and you're taking the family off to Disneyland at least once a year. Salary then has a purpose, it has a connection. So you have to understand that to make money mean something. The other thing is understanding what your family environment, social environment is like, because you can't really do work-life balance if you're not going to do anything with the time outside of work. There's no incentive to log off from work if you're not going to do anything with it. So when you start to understand how you would like to spend your time outside of work, you can then understand the importance, or what level of importance it has to you on what type of environment that you want to work in. And then the final bit is then understanding your values and morals. Because until you understand those, you don't know what the workplace is that you're going to thrive in. So it's about unlocking all of those things to be able to go, do you know what? I'm at a point in my life where salary is the most important thing, and I'm okay with that. So I'm going to go and chase it. Or it might be, there is nothing more important than having enough gaps in my calendar to have a laugh and a joke with people at work. I have to be in the office. It needs to be a really diverse culture. Like, that's what I'm after. You can't apply for a job if you have no idea whether you're going to be happy in it or not.
I love that. I love that you said values and morals as well, because like you see all of the big companies and even smaller companies, like I've got core values for my business that put out, you know, integrity and trust and whatever. And so how do you find your core values and match them up with a company?
And that's what's important for people to start digging into, because interviews are very much a two-way thing. And if you don't challenge the company, you're going to turn up making sacrifices that you never knew were sacrifices, because you never spent the time to think about what's important to you. But it's as simple as starting to just start picking through them. So I give a list of like 20 for people to start thinking about. But once you start thinking about them, you start to pick them off. But also it's really important to know that they do change over time.
Of course, yeah.
And you can't just be like, oh, when I was 20, I really valued opportunity or something. And then now you're in your 30s with 2 young kids, and actually what you really want to value is flexibility to be at every school play possible without somebody making you feel guilty about it.
Yeah. Or the shame of missing it as well.
Yes.
Which must be really, and also a challenge.
Yeah, because you often also get people that can turn up to the event, but they're not there because you might be there in physical being, but your mind is sort of elsewhere. And that is one for work-life balance. Is not what time you log off of work. It's when you can emotionally shut off from thinking about it. You can log off at 4:00 in the afternoon. If you're still thinking about it till 8 p.m, there's no point.
Yeah, snaps for Bex on that one. Yes. Snaps for Bex. Get it. Oh, damn, yes. And are you finding that that's one of the biggest challenges that women are facing, is that they're not switching off from work, or when they are at work, they're not switching off from family, so they're not getting that balance?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I find is that women are so happy to settle. So I have a belief that we are at work for a very long time, you know, thinking like 40 years we're going to be doing something at work. And we deserve for it to be a happy experience for us, because when it's not, it starts to impact so many other parts of our lives. We're there kind of Monday to Friday for the majority of people. If you have a really bad Monday to Friday, the people that then pay the price are the people you then spend the weekend with or the after hours, because you've got no energy, or you're churning over something that somebody said, or you start to become less and less confident, and it affects your relationship. And that's what had happened to me. But that is the key with women. They think it's okay to just accept how working life is. And actually what I want to say to people is, but you can be happy, and we all deserve to be happy at work.
And it's funny, because when I think of like, you can be happy at work, my decision was create my own job. Just create my own thing. Yeah. And like that works for a lot of people, or not a lot of people, because it comes with its own stresses, it comes with its own pressures. But what you're saying is that you can find it within a job, a structured employment, which is kind of amazing, because people need a security as well, and not everyone's going to be a risk taker.
Yeah, but you can be so inventive with how you find it. It's things like, I love doing this in my job, but I don't get enough of it, so I created a business on the side because it really boosts me back up to spend my time doing this. So where I couldn't get more of it from my job, I went and made something outside of it. But you can do that in your job too. Like, if you just love doing something, just start to add it in. Like, if you really love first aid, like, I'm sure you can volunteer to be the company first aider. I know.
Yeah, we were talking about first aid just before this. But in my head, it was like, yeah, if you love crocheting, why not do more crocheting on the side and sell some of it on Etsy? You know, there's always ways to bring. Yeah, you obviously have the full-time job and your side business, which is not really a side business because it's quite busy. You're quite busy and active. So how do you manage the two of those plus rest and play?
So it takes understanding the importance of each of them to be willing to make the sacrifices to do them. And it's really difficult to balance across all. There's definitely things that take priority over time. But it's so much easier for me to log off from work when I love this so much and I'm not willing to sacrifice it. So it becomes really easy to be like, sorry, I can't work late on Wednesdays, because Wednesdays is when I go live in my group every night, and we do every Wednesday, and we do training. There's just no compromise whatsoever on that. And I make it really clear with work about where those boundaries are.
Yeah.
I then so I at work do lean and efficiency type stuff. So how do we make processes quicker? So I'm all into, how can I use systems in my business to then make life easier so that I can just do the stuff that I enjoy, which is then chatting to the women, and use like apps to help plan content, all those stuff in one nutshell. Or how can I spend Sunday morning, take myself off to Costa, have a brew, do that, and then crack on with my day. And pigeonholing stuff. Like, I love to play golf. 4 hours out playing golf is a long commitment, but that's what Sundays are for.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I love seeing your golfing stories. I'm like, how did she do it, and how did she have the time for it? And like, why golf? I must ask you, why is golf your hobby of choice? What is it?
Oh, so this comes from a few angles. One is I used to work in a consultancy, and I was so sick of never being asked to play because I was the only woman. And so I decided to disrupt consulting life and disrupt the men and add myself into the mix. And so that was where it started from. It turns out that I'm actually quite good at it. And then the bit I love about it at the most, which sounds so cheesy, is golf is a pure mental game. Like, yes, there's some skill involved, but it doesn't matter how good you are. If you lose your head, you're just done, and you've got a whole nother 9 holes to go. It's a really great grounding practice for how much I've learned over time, and really tests those bits where I can park something, be present, and just deal with what's happening right in front of me right now.
Yes, I love that, because that is like such a lesson for business, for life, for career, for parenting, for everything. How to just ground yourself and be present. I will say I played pitch and push as a youngster and was atrocious. So we will not be playing golf together. But I love women who golf because they have that natural grounding. They are very like compartmentalized almost in how this is what I'm doing now and this is what I'm now doing. And it's a very great way to be, and I can see how you could bring that into a career. For women who don't golf, do you have any habits or tips that you could pass on about how to stay present, how to stay grounded in your career and to find that fulfillment in it?
Yeah, so I can't really sit still to do meditation. It just doesn't seem to work for me. But the one thing I've really learned and adopted this year is mindful walking. So it is my go-to is I don't walk with music. I just walk and try and take in all my surroundings. And if I pick the same route, I try and notice something different every time I walk it. So whether that be something different on a house that I haven't noticed before, or the sound of something like, oh, today I can hear the cars. I couldn't really hear the cars yesterday. And I just try and really concentrate on what it is that's happening around me. That is if I am flagging at lunchtime because it's a full-on day, I'll go out for a 10-minute walk, no music, just really take in everything that's happening around me.
I am with you. I don't take music with me on the bog. Where I walk is bogland, it's wooded area, and I literally try to spot the birds and remember which bird it is, and can I figure out which bird it is by the song. And I'm obsessed with buzzards at the moment, so I love it. Mindful walking is so impactful. Like it is a really beautiful exercise to do on a daily basis. Aside from golf and walking, are there anything that you can do in your day-to-day work, like at your job, that will help you recenter? So say you're after having a horrendous day, you're in the gossip train where everybody's bitching about someone, and you are feeling like you are just like part of the drama. What are your tips for someone to get out of it, get their career going, and find their confidence again to just take it to the next level?
Yeah, so I have a little very nerdy again 4C framework that I take people through. Because it starts with clarity. So without that vision thing, it's really hard to know why the bad days are worth it. You've got to have something to hold on to. And when we start to put that vision down onto paper and we start to kind of create some goals to go with it, they are the things that you need easy access to. We also then start to work out what our strengths are, and we write them down in beautiful statements. So if ever there is a day that it's just not going well, there's a page you can flick to in your notebook and just reread how great you are at so many things, writing them in the moment when you really felt it. And they are like 2 things I would do all the time is, why do I keep turning up if it's really hard? And I do because there is a bigger thing that I've got my eye on here, and this is my step and my path to get there. And then if ever there's a day where I doubt my abilities, my go-to is my list of strengths. And I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot I was really good at that. Yes, I am. But you can't do the other bits
empowering
without the clarity. Otherwise, it doesn't
Oh,
mean anything.
I love that. That's so empowering. I love that you've got your strength statements. You can sit down, you can just read them. I mean, that's literally something that literally every woman could do, whether you're employed,
Yeah.
work at home, or you are an entrepreneur. Having your strength statements, I love it. In terms of clarity, for a lot of us, we don't get clarity and we end up in careers that we didn't really necessarily choose, and then we see other people have these really cool careers and we're like, how did I not know about that? How did nobody tell me that that
Absolutely.
was an option?
Yeah.
How do you transition from something that's, let's say, an accountant to suddenly be something completely different, and like a zookeeper? Like, how do you make that massive change? Let me go from A to Z.
Yeah. So there's a few. First up on the clarity bit. So at work, people will set your objectives for you. You'll have like objectives to do, and it's very business orientated. They don't really tend to focus on you. So you have to put yourself in the driving seat of taking ownership of your career, not just the job. Because you can make the objectives mean something, which then improves your performance at work, because all of a sudden there's a connection that they're not going to make for you. So that's just one of the bits that goes back into that bigger picture. When it comes to transitioning, it's far easier than you think. So first off, people perform better, are much more productive when they are happier, and you are happiest when you're playing to your strengths. So you have to understand, what are you good at? If you are great with animals, like being the zookeeper is already like high on the list. So first off, what are you great at? For me, I'm dyslexic, so thinking about problems in a completely different way to everyone else is one of my go-to skills that people can't learn. So I have to be in a job that tackles problems. I could be in a job that tackles which animals are we going to feed on what feeding schedule, to working in finance. Like, that is a skill I can apply to anywhere. And then we also have like some things that we're just really naturally good at. So, you know, if you can organise an 11-year-old's birthday party for 20 11-year-olds to rock up, you've got some serious organisation skills and patience. They can be applied to anything. So then when you start to work through them all, the only difference will be is some level of qualification or like intellectual bits that you can learn, because the rest of it is natural ability. So you've got that covered. If it's only about learning, well, you can learn that anyway. You can learn it on a course, you can learn it on the job. So don't ever let what the job is deter you. Think about how it uses your natural ability and learn the rest. Like, that's the easy part. Opening your mind up is that's the hard part.
And self-belief. Like, I mean, how much of it comes down to self-belief?
Totally. You'll have done things far bigger and taken far greater risks at some point in your life, and you just have to remember those ones, because you're here today, so you've come out all right. Might have been a rocky road, but you still made it. So sometimes you just have to look back and be like, oh my God, yeah, it was a bit rocky, but I made it. You'll do that again. You've proven it. So sometimes you have to look backwards to create the proof statements that the future is all good.
Oh, yeah. And forgive yourself for all those like rocky moments, because we all go through them. They're all there. They're part of the journey. They're there to teach you something. How do people forgive career mistakes? So say for someone who has, you know, come into their 40s and they're looking back going, I made an absolute mess of my career. I'm not in the career I wanted. I feel so disempowered. I've no confidence in myself to change or to go forward, but I can't spend another 20 years doing this. How do you help that person?
First off, you've got to just forgive yourself, because you can't do anything about it, and the more you dwell on it, the more you're holding yourself back, and repurpose that same energy into and what the opportunity is going forward. So the only people that are putting limitations on what you can do are you. So once you start to understand how much control you really have over your future, it doesn't matter if you're 60. If you want to go and train to be a surgeon, like, the only person that's going to get in your way is you. But it doesn't always feel like that because we take in so many other external factors. And one of the main things I teach in the confidence part of those 4 C's is how do you self-validate? How do you add more weight to your own opinion than you do to everyone else's? Because most of us have the balance off. We'd be like, oh, these people think this, and I kind of think I think this, where it should be like, I think this. Oh, thanks for your little inputs. I'll take them on. But like, oh, I think this. Because like, you know you best. You know what you want. Like, you have to start validating yourself before you give so much power to other people's opinions.
Oh, I love that. That is like so true. We always end up taking other people's opinions as a source of truth. We forget that we actually create our reality. We are the queens of our own universe. And it's time to put on the crown and take it back. Put some glitter on that thing. But yeah, I fully agree.
And it happens at work all the time. Yeah, so you know, at work, people will always give feedback. And people are like, oh my gosh, they said this about me. I would always recommend, before you ask anyone for feedback, give yourself feedback first. So create validation in yourself. How do you think you did? And like really honestly reflect with yourself. What do you think went well? Where do you think you could improve? Then ask for others and let them add some colour to what you've already identified. If you just start with their opinion, it's already influencing what you think of yourself.
Yeah, so many people go into panic mode. And like because I work with startups mostly, or women who are working with a side hustle that want to take it to the next level, I find that a lot of them have, you know, already decided it's going to be a disaster. Whatever meeting they're going into, whatever review they're going into, they're getting fired. They're not only getting fired, but they're going to take their house and their car off them just for the crack of it. Like, it's worst case scenario. So I love that it's like, give yourself a feedback first so that you actually have a glimpse of reality.
Yeah.
And that spiral, if you're going down that spiral of, they're going to take my house, my car, my job, my firstborn. How do you get yourself out of that little spiral of, you know, worst case scenario feedback before the review so that you're in a level head? What would you do to get out of that spiral?
I have a little cheat sheet, which I used to have it saved on my background on my phone, actually. So when I was in a super tricky place, this was my go-to, and actually probably the best tool that got me out of there. Now I make it look pretty. But it tries to help you put thoughts or things into boxes. So if you're going through a scenario, you'll ask yourself, am I trying to read someone's mind here? What do I actually know that has come out of their mouth when they're like, oh, so-and-so doesn't like me and they're just out to get me? Like, so have you heard that from them? And most often we haven't. We've just projected ourselves into a situation and have formed an opinion. Where are you catastrophizing? So where have you taken like the nugget that started and created the story around it? And so you start to then split like 2 columns, piece of paper, what's fact, what's fiction? Where am I creating a story that doesn't actually exist here? Where have I applied a filter? So because of the mood I'm in, I've applied a lens to everything that's incoming, and therefore how do you recognize that that's what's happening? So there's a little cheat sheet. I think it has 8 different labels that you can attach to your thoughts or situations, and then some tips on then how to deal with it, because you recognize that you're mind reading, and then you can go, well, hang on a second, I don't actually know that they don't like me.
I've just assumed. Yeah. I think it's just that worst case scenario. I think we're trained to almost believe that it's worst case all the time instead of like, you know, going in best case. How do you feel about 360 feedback, where you both get feedback but get to give your own feedback too?
Yeah, so I can't remember what it's called. I'll dig it out and I'll send you a note so you can add it into the comments or something. But it's around, if you really value someone, it's so important to give them feedback so you can help enrich their lives. So feedback is not a tool to tear someone down. It's a form of enrichment for people, because if they're aware of things, they can then make some improvements of it. I am a big believer in giving feedback, whether people ask for it or not, in both really positive and opportunities to improve. It's about how you frame it. But I'm also so open to having feedback given to me, because that is the only way that I can really progress. I mean, I'd hate to sit there and people would be like, oh my God, your presentations are so boring, and just no one ever told me. Can you imagine?
Oh my God, it's awful. I always ask for feedback. I'm like, just give it to me straight. Tell me exactly what you thought. Don't sugarcoat it. I'm a big girl. I'll handle it. In the yoga world, we get a lot of feedback. You know, I'm a yoga teacher on the side. I'm a side hustler with lots of side hustlers. But I often hear about, you know, we used to get a lot of feedback when we were early day teachers, or, you know, starting out in our teacher careers. And I often hear about teachers giving feedback, but not willing to accept feedback. Like, I love feedback. If you hated my class, tell me. If you found something too tricky, tell me. I'm all ears all the time. If you tell me my class is too hard, I'm like, it'll be harder next week, so make sure you're here. But I think being able to be gracious and receive feedback is such an important thing. And it can be hard when you are the person getting the feedback to give it, but also the giver of the feedback to get it.
And I think it starts by being a good receiver, which then makes it much easier to give. And I would always say, like, feedback is a gift. Just because somebody says something's bad, it doesn't mean you have to then do something about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's only their opinion.
Absolutely.
So if that's the case, like, why? Well, I'll just ask people what their opinion is. And there's also a filter that you do have to add. And this is a really important one, because this is definitely where I became a real cropper with the bullying, is I let feedback become extremely personal. So if a piece of work wasn't good enough, it was a reflection of who I was and that I wasn't good enough. And that's not the case. The piece of work is not good enough. So you have to be really careful about the emotional connections that you make between the thing and then who you are as a person, because they're not connected, but we often make the connections. So being really aware of somebody saying they don't like your fonts or whatever is not like, oh my God, I'm terrible at being able to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm just not good enough.
Yeah.
So
be
careful
not
about
all opinions.
Your emotions.
Totally. Sorry for talking over you. Not all opinions are fact. Not all opinions are fact. And they are literally just opinions. Yeah. I am very much like, thanks for your feedback. I love it and I'll use it, but I'm not taking it on as part of who I am. There is like a boundary there of what I take on. And I think that's really important, especially as women, because we are more prone to taking things just a little bit deeper, that it's depending on who it's coming from, that we kind of feel that hurt of it, a sting of it a little bit more, and maybe the person giving it just less mindful about how they're doing it.
Yeah, and always just think, like, is it coming from someone that you really respect and they're giving you feedback on something that you respect them for? If not, like, why are you going to add a load of weight to it? Like, I wouldn't take if somebody told me my presentation skills were really bad, but I was watching them thinking, you're awful. I'm not going to like, do you know what? I absolutely need to change things. If it was someone who I thought delivered really great presentations, it's super engaging all the time, and they told me that, I'd be like, okay, what can I learn from this scenario? So just I met Dave Brailsford once, and he said to me around, don't take good information from faulty robots. And the faulty robots is, if you don't respect them for what they're offering, why are you taking the information from them as gospel and then validating it? So make sure you're taking information from good robots.
Yeah, I love that. We'll all be going around going, is that a good robot or a bad robot? Is that a good robot or a bad robot? Which category would I put you in? Bex, that's been amazing. And what a great sort of bit of advice, you know, don't take advice from faulty robots. I love it. And I think that's something that we can all probably use more of in our careers, our businesses, our personal relationships, because we're not all perfect. We might be a good robot with some stuff, but we're faulty at something else for sure in every area.
Definitely.
So, amazing. Bex, how can we find out more about you, or how can we learn more about you?
So the best places are to follow me on Instagram, where I'm always putting in tips and freebies and access to any live events. So it's Bex, BEX _ career _ confidant with an E on the end, the place where you give secrets to. Or you can join my Facebook group, which is Boost Your Confidence, Love Your Career. Put that into the search bar and you can ask to be a part of the group. And in there we've got live training, free live coaching, workbooks, worksheets, and a lovely little community. And just joined by the doggo.
Someone can open all the doors. Sorry. Diva has arrived. I'm so sorry. Boost Your Confidence. Give us your Facebook.
Love Your Career.
Love Your Career. Amazing. And I highly recommend, because I hear the group is amazing. I've got a few friends who are in it and they're always saying that there's lots of content in it. It's very engaging. People are very active. So get in there if you're looking for career advice, if you're looking to transition your career, or if you literally just want to feel more empowered in your actual career that you have. Join, because you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something from Bex. So why not get in there good and early? I am going to apologise for Molly dropping in, making a big bang, and letting us know that she's here.
That's the kind of confidence you need, women. You got to walk in the room and just own it.
And she's going to give you an opinion, and it's going to definitely not be fact. Bex, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining us live. Thank you so much for giving your time and for the amazing tips. I think there's been something in here for nearly everyone, whether it's about going for a mindful walk, grounding yourself, not taking on other people's feedback, getting to know your strengths. Even that alone is a total game changer for someone's career, for someone's business, for someone's mindset. I mean, Molly's strength is opening all the doors in the house and breaking into rooms that she's not meant to be in. So if a dog can embrace her strengths, yeah, anyone can do it.
Exactly.
Bex, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us live, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone else who watched us live, and we will see you soon. We'll see you next week.